So like I said in the last video, I'm going to be doing a video talking about the Battle of the Bonds. And so let's dive into that story a little bit. So producers Jack Whittingham and Kevin McClory were going to team up with Ian Fleming back in the 50s to make the Bond books into movies. They crafted their own little script and story, and yeah, they made this really interesting story about, nuclear weapons and whatnot. And for some reason, they never made the movies. But Ian Fleming took that interesting story and made a book out of it. So that book was Thunderball, and he didn't give credit to Whittingham or McClure for the story, so they sued. That's fair enough. But it gets a little more complicated after that, and if you really want to find out about, there's books and television shows about it. Disputes about the story are still going on today, so you'll probably never see characters like Largo or Blofeld in a Daniel Craig movie. But anyway, so the ending thing, Thunderball, basically Kevin McClory got the producing credit, and he was able to make his own Bond film 15 years after Thunderball. So who do you cast to compete with Roger Moore when you have another Bond film coming out that year to compete with his new one? Well, you get Sean Connery. For some reason, Sean Connery signed on to compete, and even though he said he was never coming back, he returned for his last Bond appearance in a movie in the appropriately titled Never Say Never Again. Now, if you think the movie's interesting, it's just a remake of Thunderball, and in my opinion, Thunderball is way better because this movie looks cheaper, the characters aren't that interesting, Sean Connery's a little older playing Bond, it's pretty boring, and it's really badly dated. The movie's got some good fight scenes and a good motorcycle chase, and Kim Basinger and Barbara Carrera do a pretty good job with what they're given. But the opening teaser sucks because through all the good action, they were playing a horrible theme song for the movie, and it turns out to be a training exercise, which I've always hated to see in movies. Bernie Casey plays Felix Leiter in the movie, and he's great. It seems like whenever African American plays Felix, they always do a really good job with the casting. But Largo isn't that interesting of a villain in this movie, or not even in Thunderball, but he just looks like really bland in this movie. The actor ain't bad, but still. But despite some of the flaws, the action's well filmed, the whole movie's pretty well filmed and well directed by Irvin Kershner, who also directed The Empire Strikes Back. And yeah, Irvin Kershner, yes, he's more than capable of making a Bond film. But had he directed a different one, he could have proved that he could do a way better job. But this story and everything, the set pieces and the characters and stuff, just I don't know. It's just iffy, and the editing's off sometimes. So yeah, he doesn't get that much good stuff to work with. Had he had better stuff, he would have made a better film. Oh, and I guess it's worth mentioning that Rowan Atkinson's in this movie in his very first film appearance. Overall, this movie ain't horrible, but it's one of my least favorites. Much better, in my opinion, is Octopussy, from the director of For Your Eyes Only. And yes, I get it, the name is hilarious. Out of all the Bond films they could have named after the Bond girl, I don't know why they picked this one. And while Roger Moore's a little older, he still looks great for his age and still convincingly gets the women and still is really convincing in his action scenes, and he looks like he's having fun. But the movie is extremely predictable and extremely stupid. Hell, Roger Moore is in a clown costume in this movie, but the movie's purpose isn't to be serious. Its purpose is to entertain you, and it does that extremely well. This is one of those Bond films you can just sit back and watch on the weekend, just turn your brain off, and be entertained by. I mean, it's awesome in that aspect. The opening teaser is awesome, there's loads of action, Roger Moore's great, and yeah, for some reason, I just love this movie. I just think it's extremely entertaining, and while Ben Cobb thinks it sucks, I disagree. I love this movie. I don't know why. I just think it's fun, entertaining, exciting, and all the above. There's not much more to say other than the villains are okay. And Maud Adams is good in the movie, and she's the only actress to ever appear as two Bond girls. She previously appeared in The Man with the Golden Gun, but she's more interesting here. She doesn't get an awful lot to do, but she's the most age-appropriate Bond girl they could have gotten for Roger Moore at this point. And it wasn't creepy when they started kissing. Something I love is that the director John Glenn likes to have a lot more Q in the movie, and Bond also gets a really cool sidekick at the beginning of the movie who's a tennis player in real life. Gobinda's a really cool sidekick who has a decent fight at the end, and there's a guy with a yo-yo with a saw blade attached to it. This guy showed up in my favorite action scene in the film, and I think you know why. So while the film plays out more like an Indiana Jones film than a James Bond film, it's extremely entertaining, and I say that if you're just looking for a movie to sit back and watch, turn your brain off, and just be entertained for a few hours, then definitely check this movie out. This would have made a great send-off movie for Roger Moore, but they wanted to make one more Bond film with him. I'm sorry about that terrible pun, but yeah, if you want to hear how I feel about A Fatal Kill, go watch the previous video. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and look forward to the next one.